And nobody cares if this was 1 week of prep. Who cares? You know? So a lot of people want to see me fail, and that ain't gonna happen. You know, it ain't gonna happen. I'm not gonna lie, I felt very relaxed. And half of that comes from preparing, studying, and knowing I got God on my side. So throughout all that, I had no worries. I didn't feel nervous or anything before the game because, you know, like, he took all my worries and everything away. I would say the thing is, I visualized everything during the week. The game was already played. So that's why I have confidence. That's why I'm able to talk how I talk, walk how I walk.
Breaking news out of Cleveland, and Shedeur Sanders is done playing nice. Even after the Browns scraped out a win against the Raiders, the young QB didn't hold back for a second when the conversation shifted to first-team reps. And honestly, you can't blame him. How long is a quarterback supposed to sit quietly while the head coach keeps handing starter reps to everyone except the guy who's actually showing growth, poise, and hunger? Shedeur's words show a young quarterback who has already learned something most veterans still struggle with: blocking out the noise. When he says people want to see him fail, you can feel the weight behind it. That frustration, that fire, that quiet anger turned into fuel. He isn't whining, he's declaring war on doubt. And the crazy part, even with all that pressure, he's calm. Almost too calm for someone who's been thrown into a situation where he barely gets the reps he deserves. That tells you something about who he is becoming. Shedeur isn't just fighting opponents, he's fighting expectations, narratives, the controversies, and the people waiting for him to slip. Yet he stands there, shoulders relaxed, saying it's not gonna happen. That's real confidence. That's lived experience. That's a young man who's tired of being underestimated. And when he talks about being relaxed, studied, prepared, and covered by faith, it hits different. Because that kind of peace doesn't come from a perfect situation. It comes from surviving a messy one. Imagine going into a game knowing you haven't been given the proper first-team rhythm, knowing the reps weren't there, the system wasn't fully tailored to you, and still being calm, still being grounded, still feeling protected. That takes maturity far beyond his age. Meanwhile, Stefanski is out here acting like preparation doesn't matter, switching quarterbacks like he's flipping pages in a notebook. So how is Shedeur this composed when the coach responsible for his development can't even give him the consistency he's earned? How do you relax when the man calling the shots keeps creating chaos? Maybe Shedeur's peace isn't confidence in Stefanski, maybe it's confidence despite Stefanski. And when he says he already visualized the game before it happened, that's the part that should make Stefanski uncomfortable, because it shows Shedeur is doing work behind the scenes that the coaching staff should be helping him with, not leaving him to figure out alone. If the game was already played in his mind, then why isn't the coach giving him the reps that match his preparation? Why does a young quarterback have to rely on visualization to make up for the physical reps he never gets? Why does Shedeur believe in the process more than the man running the process? That should tell everyone something. Shedeur isn't just preparing, he's carrying himself like someone who knows he's destined for more, even if his own coach can't see it yet. And honestly, how long before that tension comes to the surface? How long before people start asking whether Stefanski is holding back the player who's proving he's ready to lead?
I was a 5th round pick. I got skipped by everybody at least 5 times. So you know, it is what it is. But I'm just thankful for where I am now. You know, I don't. Everybody have their differences. But I still got an opportunity to play. So why can I be mad? You know, money different, but thankfully I have a good family. You know, so it is what it is. We're not playing for that. We're playing for the love of the game. So I'm just thankful to be out here, have an opportunity, be able to go and play. Go out there and play, go out there and start. Like, you don't know how surreal, you know, that feeling is, knowing that you have the responsibility of the Browns organization on your shoulders, you know, having all the fans, you know, everybody in here arguing with each other online and everything. Everybody have their differences about me. It is what it is.
Shedeur's words show a young man who got humbled by the draft, but never broken by it. Being skipped this many times isn't something you just brush off. That's the league telling you they don't believe in you, that you're not their guy, that your name doesn't hold the same value as others. And yet here he is, standing on an NFL field, playing with heart, talking with maturity, and carrying himself like someone who should have been picked much higher. The league misjudged him. They looked at the wrong things, they listened to the wrong voices, and they let a quarterback with real hunger slip right through their fingers. And now, all those teams have to watch him grow in front of the whole world, knowing they made the wrong choice by skipping him again and again. That's not just a mistake, that's a system failure. Because how does a player with this level of composure, gratitude, and leadership go in the 5th round? How do you miss that kind of character? That kind of mindset, the league should be embarrassed that they let him fall that far, when so many players with half the drive and none of the humility were taken before him. And the crazy part, the Browns aren't off the hook either, because even after they got him, they still acted like he wasn't ready. They still held him back, they still waited too long to let him take control, and it cost them real games. You can hear it in his voice. He is thankful. He loves the game. He's grateful for the chance, but he also knows what it means to carry a whole franchise on his shoulders, and he's doing it now. So why didn't Cleveland trust him earlier? Why did they waste weeks running in circles with quarterbacks who didn't have the same focus, the same preparation, the same heart? How many games would they have won if they had believed in him from the start? How many times did they choose experience or familiarity over actual talent? It took injuries, pressure, and chaos for the Browns to finally see what they had right in front of them, and that delay might be the difference between a winning season and a wasted one. Shedeur isn't the problem. The question is, why did it take the Browns so long to realize it?
I couldn't tell you I'll be here. You know, God, the only way I'm able to even get through everything, you know. Being able to see my family, that was important, and I'm happy they was here to be able to witness it. But without God, nothing possible, honestly. And I mean that truly and dearly. And everybody starts different places. And like I say, just because I didn't get the summer reps, you know, just because I wasn't in a...
Tell it like it is. Tell it like it is. Nope, he ain't get them.
For me to be prepared to go out there and execute, like from a summer standpoint, that's how life is. You know, everybody's not in everybody's not in the best situation, you know, but it's no excuse. You got to go out there and perform. Like, there's no choice, there's no question.
Shedeur's mindset here reveals a young quarterback who comprehends something his own coaching staff still hasn't grasped. Greatness isn't forged in perfect conditions. It is defined by rising in spite of them. He is leaning on faith, on family, on inner strength merely to survive a situation where the preparation he should have received was never provided. Instead of complaining, he transforms it into accountability. He carries himself like someone who knows the world won't feel sorry for him, so he refuses to feel sorry for himself either. And honestly, that level of maturity is exceptionally rare. Most rookies would fold under that kind of pressure, especially when the reps, the rhythm, the system, the trust, all the foundational elements a young QB needs were withheld from him. Yet even after being thrown in without a real summer blueprint, he still demonstrates calm, focus, and emotional grounding. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because he's built different. And this is where the Stefanski part hits hard, because Shedeur's words expose what the coach refuses to admit. The kid didn't get the reps. He didn't get the pipeline. He didn't get the early investment every developing quarterback deserves. And instead of Stefanski owning that, it is Shedeur who carries the burden and still performs. That's not coaching excellence. That's a quarterback saving the coach from his own poor decisions. How does Stefanski watch this young man step up with 1 week of prep and still act like the QB battle was ever close? How does a coach justify holding him back in the summer and then expecting him to magically be ready when everything falls apart? Shedeur isn't making excuses, but let's be honest, Stefanski is the excuse. And the more Shedeur shows composure and leadership in these moments, the more obvious it becomes who's actually carrying the Browns forward and who's been slowing them down.
That you got to be able to adapt to. So that's where all those core different things of being able to relate, being able to understand. But now, since I went through everything the past 6 months, it led me to a whole different understanding, you know, and it led me in my own experience with God, with having faith, you know, when nobody else can help you in your situation, you know, but God, you know. So that's why I'm truly thankful and I'm truly happy. And this is the first time I've never had stress, you know. I did the work. I did everything I can in my power I was able to do. So the rest was left up to him.
Shedeur is showing a kind of emotional growth you don't often see in young players, especially ones thrown into chaos the way he was. What he's describing is a shift, not just as an athlete, but as a person. When everything around him felt uncertain, when the last 6 months pushed him to limits most people don't even talk about, he had to find strength in places deeper than football. That kind of faith doesn't show up out of nowhere. It comes from being tested, from feeling alone, from knowing no one can really step in and fix your situation except something bigger than yourself. You can hear that he's not just learning how to play quarterback, he's learning how to survive pressure, loneliness, doubt, and the noise around him. And because of that, he's calmer now. He knows what he can control and what he can't. He's learned to breathe through the storms instead of fighting them. That's real growth. That's the kind of growth people overlook when all they care about is stats. And what makes it even more powerful is that he talks about doing the work, his part, and then letting go of the rest. That's a level of maturity most veterans still chase. He prepared, he studied, he pushed himself, he stayed disciplined even when the situation around him wasn't fair or stable, and instead of letting the pressure break him, he used it to build his own peace. That's why he wasn't stressed going into the game. That's why he felt calm, not because things were easy, but because he finally learned how to carry responsibility without letting it crush him. What he's describing is a deeper understanding of himself, a young player turning into a man right in front of the whole league, and whether people like him or not, that kind of inner strength is why he's going to last. He's pointing out how easy it is for fans, analysts, and even coaches to sit on the sideline and act like they know everything, while he had to learn the hard way by being thrown into a brutal situation against one of the toughest defenses in the league. That moment forced him to grow faster than anyone expected, and it exposed how unprepared the coaching staff kept him by limiting his reps and treating him like a long-term project instead of a player who needed real-time experience. And yet, instead of breaking, he adapted. He learned on the field what they refused to give him in practice. That's the part people should be talking about, that a rookie got tossed into chaos with barely any first-team chemistry, while veteran quarterbacks around the league get years to sit, learn, and adjust before being tested. Meanwhile, Shedeur had to make sense of everything immediately, in real speed with real hits against real opponents, and somehow, he still turned it into growth. That says more about his grit than anything anyone in Cleveland has done to help him. It also exposes how little outsiders understand when they judge him because they didn't feel the pressure he felt, they didn't deal with the lack of preparation he dealt with, and they didn't have to stabilize a situation he didn't create, and yet he still came out stronger, sharper, and more confident. That's not luck, that's not system, that's not coaching genius. That's a rookie quarterback doing the work the organization should have done for him from the start. After all, Shedeur exposed the pressure, the growth, and the fire behind his rise, proving he's ready for the role everyone tried to deny him. And after the Browns win against the Raiders, it's clear his voice and his presence are shaping this team more than anyone expected. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe, like, and stay locked in for more. And tell me, what do you guys think? After seeing Shedeur step up again in the Raiders win, do you think he's earned the right to take full control of this offense moving forward?